push, pull. Which way's better? Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? In this video, we're going to take a look at how I use a ferro rod. Coming up on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose. My name is Brian. Thanks for joining me. So I do a lot of videos where I test the ability of a knife to strike fire with a ferro rod and ferrocerium rod. Some people call them fire steels. There are a lot of different names for them, but basically this is a couple of examples here. And they're one of my favorite ways of starting a fire because they last a long time and they're very reliable. And there's not a whole lot to go wrong with them unless you drop them in a fire or lose them. But you guys that watch alone will know where that came from. So anyway, I usually use my ferro rod a certain way, and invariably I always get comments, no, I'm doing it wrong. You know, the way to use a ferro rod is to hold your knife or your striker and pull the rod away. And there's benefits to that, I understand. So without me rambling a whole lot longer, I'll probably still do some rambling when we get down here. But let's get on down to the old picnic top table and we'll take a look at how I use a ferro rod. And we'll talk about a couple of different ways that I've seen other people do it and the pros and cons, in my opinion of them. And we'll wrap this up. Okay, so I've got 3 different ferro rods here. This is from, actually it's one I made, but it's from firesteel.com. This is a Schrade ferro rod, and this is, I think, just from like a cheap $5 ferro rod from I don't know where I got it, to be honest with you. And then the knife I'm using today in this demonstration is the Battle Horse Knives Highlander. I got so many different knives. I like to use different ones. This one is the one that is on my belt this weekend. So let's talk about the different ways to use a ferro rod. Essentially, there are 3 main different techniques that people use, and we're going to show you in a minute. We'll take care of these little things of fatwood here, but the first one, and this is the one everybody says I should do, is to hold your striker, whatever you use. In this case, I'm using this knife steady, and you pull the ferro rod away from you, and you can see that can do a good job. It can really help you line things up, and it works pretty good. And a lot of times it doesn't really allow me to direct the sparks where I want them all the time, but and maybe it's just a practice thing. It definitely does a pretty good job. So that's one way of doing it. And the advantage of that is you don't bump, you don't have a chance of bumping your tinder and knocking it out of the way. Okay, and this is the Schrade ferro rod. We'll try, and some things work better with different ferro rods. We'll try, this is the firesteel.com. You can see it does a little different. And this is the cheap one with no handle, so I got to be careful about that. And it does okay too. So, but for me, that's just a little harder to control. I got to really focus on what I'm doing, a lot harder for me. The second way that I've seen it done is the push method. And basically, you plant your ferro rod in your tinder, and then you just dig it. And see, all I'm doing with this ferro rod, that only works really with hard ferro rods, like a Light My Fire, which I don't have with me right now, but it just scrapes the soft one away. We'll try it with a cheap one and see. So I think you got to really have a hard ferro rod for that to work. You can see, so that you see the pieces of the ferro rod caught, and that was with really me doing a pretty long flick. It wasn't just a little dig. And this, by the way, is a Schrade ferro rod, which, as you can see, man, I really like it. It throws a lot of burning molten goodness out. So that's the second way. The way I do it is this: I plant my ferro rod and I scrape down like that. And to me, that just lets me put it right where I want it. Now I do knock my tinder around sometimes, and that's a risk that you have to take. The other thing I do is I bang my dadgum knuckles all the time on stuff. So, you know, that's another downside to my technique. But you can see it pretty much works with any ferro rod. And if you got your tip of your knife over here, and I'll show you in a minute with the fatwood, you don't run as big a risk of knocking stuff around. But that's how you do it. So we'll start here. We'll move this over here and we'll try it. First we'll try and this is just fat wood that I've scraped off, and we'll try the pull away method and see how well I do with that. And we're going to use the Light My Fire steel. And you see, for me, I just don't do as good directing it. I can put it kind of where I want it, but I can put my knife where I want it. But let's try the cheap no-name brand. Okay, so we got it. And we'll put that aside, and we'll try the Schrade Fire Steel. Get it out of the way. Okay, we got it. But you can see it just didn't. I'm not as good at that, to be honest with you. I probably need to work on that technique. But so that's the way that most people that correct me tell me I should be doing it. We're going to move you out of the way now. Here's the way that I've seen a lot of other people do it. I know Andy Tran from Interbark Outdoors does it this way. I know I think Magnus Anderson may do it this way. We'll use the cheap Fire Steel for this one and see what happens. I don't know if I can even get it with this one or not. I can't even get it with this one. It's really... Okay, so I got it with the firesteel.com, and it works. You just got it's a technique you got to work on, and that's another way to do it. And as you can see, both those ways worked. Now, the way I do it typically is just like this, and this is the way I almost always do it. We'll just take the Schrade Fire Steel, and I just go. And for me, you see how much easier it is for me. It can direct the spark right where I want them. I have to kind of keep my tip of my knife up here, hopefully, so that it doesn't impact my tinder, and it stops at whatever the ground or whatever. And it doesn't always work. So honestly, I do knock my tinder around sometimes, but I usually wind up with a fire. I say usually, if I've got decent tinder, I always wind up with a fire. Okay, well, hopefully that answers some of your questions and comments about the proper use, if there is such a thing, of a Fire Steel. And I think the takeaway from this video is that maybe there's not a proper use. There's several different ways, and each have their advantages and disadvantages. I get the fact that you don't want to knock your tinder around, but at the same time, for me, that way just doesn't work as good. I have a lot better success doing it my way, and I have really high success doing it my way. So even though I understand the other way, and I think it's good to practice different ways of doing things, just because I'm not doing it the way whoever says is the best way to do it doesn't mean that it's the wrong way. I did a video a while back called Bushcraft Nazis, and kind of addressed the same concerns that there's people that they learn something for the first time and they think that's the only way to do it. The bottom line, I think you should practice many different ways and figure out what way works best for you, and then really refine that. And it's always good to have more than one way. But anyway, I'm rambling again. I hope this has been helpful. If you had questions about how to use a ferro rod or what the different ways are, maybe this has been a benefit to you. As always, thanks for watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for subscribing. By the way, I put out a new video every Friday, every Saturday, and usually a couple of other times throughout the week. So if you're not a subscriber, I encourage you to do so. You'll be notified when I get a new video. Thanks. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Let Google know you like this kind of videos. And thank you so very much for supporting this channel by doing all your Amazon shopping through the Survival on Purpose links. I usually put links in the descriptions, sometimes up here in the video. And if there's not there, you can always go to survivalonpurpose.com/Amazon. You can do your shopping like normal on Amazon. Anything you buy will benefit the channel and a little bit, and it won't cost you anything extra. If you like audio books like I do, which I listen to audio all the time driving in my truck instead of music, because I like to, it's just a good way to learn new things when I would be otherwise probably fussing at traffic. You can also support the channel by getting a free 1-month trial for Audible, and there'll be a link to that in the description. So you get to download a free audio book. If you like it, good, stick around. If not, you can cancel it. But that's another way you can support the channel without coming out of your pocket with any bucks, and it really helps, and I really appreciate it. So once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival is not an accident, so be prepared, and I'll see you next time. ferro rod. Man, that's a tough one.